Oh, come on! How's it going, everybody? You're watching the Broken Controller Club, broadcasting from my secret underground lair at the bottom of the sea. My name is Ed, and I'm continuing a special event known as Bad Game Summer, where I've decided to play and highlight famous and obscure games with objectively terrible reputations. Good thing that there's plenty of whiskey and cigars to get me through this. Today's game that's making me slowly die inside is Frogger Returns on the PlayStation 3, a game that honestly would have been fine had it been released in the early 80s because it's basically just the same thing as the original game. That also means that I died so much that I wanted to claw my eyes out and throw my controller across the room. You play as, wait for it, a frog. I don't know what type of frog though, so don't come at me about that in the comments. But you're a frog and you're trying to get to your home lily pad or something. Isn't that cute? Well, little Jumpy Frog is about to find out that he can't return home because he's about to get killed in every conceivable way that this game offers. Like working at a corporate job or standing in a checkout line at Walmart on a Saturday, this is a game about suffering and defeat and giving up on your goals. Frog knows this because he's got a look on his face on the title screen like he knows things are about to get pretty awful. The rules are simple. You move the frog across the level, avoiding traffic and other dangers to get it to one of the goals at the top of the level. Filling all 5 goals with frogs completes the level. Every time you get a frog to the goal though, the game speeds up and it gets harder to make it across. There's only 4 levels, so don't expect a ton of variety here. You start on the classic Frogger level where you're going across traffic and logs, then there's a subway, a sewer, and I guess a forest or swamp or something. Obviously 4 levels isn't much in variety, and when you play through each level it feels like the exact same thing, just with a different coat of paint. You'll come across cars, subway cars, rats, alligators, and such. But really, it just feels like you're doing the same thing over and over again. Having to get 5 of these frogs to safety stretches the length of each level, and that means you're going to hear the same song over and over again. The game controls okay, but regardless of the console you're playing it on, you have to keep mashing the directional pad button to keep the frog moving, and can't just hold the button in one direction for him to go. I'm sure the intention was to help you plan your moves more, but I still wanted that option because I am capable of not pressing the D-pad when I want to stop him from moving. Now again, I played this on the PS3, and my understanding on the Wii version is that you have to actually point the Wii remote at the screen while moving him, and you can't hold the controller horizontally. That alone would make me hate this game. I don't know why someone would think that's a good idea. Because the game is in 3D, I had some issues with figuring out where I was allowed to move and where I'd die. Like there's some spots in each level where if you think you're going to land at the edge of a platform, it actually won't count from the computer's perspective anyways, and you'll die. Also, the goals at the far end of each level were especially hard to figure out how long I'm safe for, and at times I'd be what looks like 1 or 2 spaces away from the edge of the screen and I'd still die. There's some boundary lines that you can see at the bottom of each level, but nobody's paying attention to that in a game as fast-paced as this is, especially if you're down to your last goal and everything is moving at warp speed. Now, I think the biggest question I had while playing was where the hell the frog was going to begin with that would bring him that far from home. If you're crossing a city subway system to get somewhere, it must be pretty amazing because just like heading to the bad part of town at 2 a.m. or visiting Cracker Barrel mid-morning any Sunday, you're kinda asking for trouble when you do that. So really, when I got this frog killed around 50 or 60 times while playing this, and put my head in my hands and wept bitterly at not being able to beat a game with 4 freaking levels, I didn't really feel responsible because he was the idiot who ventured outside his lily pad to begin with. There's a few power-ups as you're going through the game. There's one that stops everything for a few seconds, one that makes only traffic go backwards. I don't even know why someone would want to use that, you're still dodging everything the same way. Then there's also a shield that makes you invulnerable to everything, including water. I mention water in particular because you die if you touch water. For those of you who may not be aware, a frog is an amphibian, and they're perfectly comfortable in water. Some might even argue that they need it to live. But this water will kill you and send that little frog into the afterlife with a little halo and everything. And if there's a frog heaven, then what's frog hell like? Are there cats there? Or kids waiting with M80s? I'm getting off track. Frogger Returns comes with a few different modes. You've got your basic arcade mode, and then you've got time trial, score attack, and free play. If you're like me and can't make it to the last level, then you'll want to do time trial because it'll let you check out all 4 levels and you can see what you've been missing out on. Score attack means surprise, surprise, you're trying to get the highest score you can before stroking out in anger, and free play just lets you mess around without worrying about lives or score or self-esteem. The game also comes with a multiplayer mode, which honestly is the most fun you'll have with this, because then you can have a buddy who can die repeatedly with you. I played this with my daughter, and we actually had a good time because we were both really terrible at it. There's classic race mode where the first to claim 3 goals wins, and the same normal rules apply as arcade mode here, except you get unlimited lives and someone to share your pain with. Next up is territories, where you each work to not only claim your goals, but you can also take over your friend's goal. This was probably the most fun of all the modes. Collector and Fly Feast are the last 2 modes, and in those you catch as many flies as you can. In Collector, you have to grab as many flies as you feel comfortable with, and then get to one of the goals and drop them off. Once that goal is taken, you have less opportunities to get points. In Fly Feast, you're just catching as many flies as possible with a time limit, each with a varying score, and you don't have to worry about dropping them off anywhere, you're just grabbing them as you go. Now for any of these multiplayer modes with time limits, the time is set at 5 minutes and felt really long after a while. Like halfway through you'll feel like you're done and then realize there's another very long 2.5 minutes to go, and you can't adjust to that time in the options, so you're stuck. Also, we found out that running your frog into the other one will kill it, and that made games a lot more interesting once we figured that out. One last note about multiplayer is that there's just one level you can play on, and that's it. I don't know why they wouldn't have just made the 4 single-player levels available, but there you go. So this review wasn't very long, but it's because there just wasn't a lot here. For anybody tenacious enough to make it through this game, Frogger Returns is a quick and angering way to spend a weekend watching amphibians get run over or drown. The single-player game is pretty bare bones, but if you have a buddy who's open-minded, then multiplayer can actually be a fun time, at least until you get bored with the one level available. All that said, this is probably one of the more solid games in Bad Game Summer, but then that's not really saying much at this point. And that's all I've got for today's review. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this with someone who likes frogs so that it'll upset them. Until next time. Congratulations! You're one of an elite few to make it to the end of the video. Reward yourself by hitting the round subscribe button in the middle, and then check out the other goodies I've got in the links next to it.